My husband's family banned Maine from Christmas, so I gave them the worst gifts possible. Now, I'm divorcing him, and the prenup he wanted is saving me instead. Throwaway account for anonymity. I, 31 Fef, married my soon-to-be ex-husband, M33, in 2018. My in-laws never liked me and made it clear. Steeps insisted that they're just putting up a tough exterior, and they'll grow to love me. To show how evil they are, one time I joined them for dinner and brought a cake I'd made. Because I was always raised to be a gracious guest. When I stepped into the kitchen and offered the cake to his mother as a thank you for inviting me, she took the plate over to the garbage bin, dumped it in, and handed me the plate back. When I told my husband what she did, he confronted her, and all of a sudden the crocodile tears started. And she claimed she grabbed the plate but didn't get a good grip. I let go too quickly, and it fell to the floor, so of course it had to be thrown away. My SIL confirmed that was what happened. My Steeps owned his own business, and they called me a gold digger behind his back. Of course they insisted on a prenup, which I didn't care about because I never thought my marriage would end, and it would appease them, and may allow them to finally treat me kindly. Nope. His business failed once COVID hit. We went through his savings and my own trying to keep it afloat. I refused to go into debt to keep it going, so he closed it down. In 2022 he was suffering from really bad depression, because he lost his business and couldn't find new work. He suggested we move to his hometown, closer to his family, so he had a larger support network. Against my best judgment we did. He wanted to only work part-time while he tried to restart his business, so I became the main breadwinner. And as with most wives, I became the person in charge of buying gifts. Stupid all me thought buying them thoughtful, expensive gifts would finally make them see I wanted to be accepted by them. Gifts to us were a couple's gift, but clearly for my Steeks only. Every holiday was spent with them. Monthly dinners with the whole family. After a year, I realized that if I ever tried to talk or join a conversation, everyone would go quiet. So I just stopped talking when I visited. In early December they finalized plans for Christmas. A few days later my SPX said his family decided they didn't want me to join them for Christmas Eve dinner and Christmas lunch because I ruined the family vibe. I replied, fine, we'll do our own thing instead. My Steeps sheepishly looked away and said he was still going to go. I was livid and so disappointed in him. That was the moment I knew my marriage was over. So I returned the presents I had bought for his family. In their place I got one pair of novelty business socks for Phil, a supermarket brand bottle of shampoo for Mill, the nastiest perfume I could find at the dollar store for Sil. The most expensive gift was a large rawhide bone for Beal and his wife's Chihuahua. Too big for it to get its jaw around, rendering it useless. I saved about $600 to put on a deposit for a new apartment. My husband come home from Christmas lunch telling me I humiliated him and embarrassed him in front of his family. I asked him why would he think I'd buy nice gifts for people who clearly don't like me and don't want me around. Served divorce papers last week. Remember how he was supposed to be a millionaire by now, so we had that prenup. These specs is not eligible for any of my savings. It was required to keep separate accounts or alimony. He doesn't have money for rent and auto insurance. Not my problem anymore. Some of my friends and family and on my side, and proud that I went out in a blaze of glory. Others are telling me I was being way too petty, which isn't really like me. So, Ida? Comments by OP. First thing I did after I moved into my new apartment was adopt an older car from the shelter. He was allergic and I could never adopt one since we first started living together. We're just two old hags living our best lives after being rejected. He only worked 12 hours a week at Walmart till he could do non-existent work restarting his business. I make just over 6 figures and I can't believe I didn't realize years ago I was the family ATM. My lawyer even laughed that the prenup that was set up for him is going to be what we use for me. It required both spouses to maintain separate bank accounts, and each spouse could keep 100% of their savings. No spouse eligible for alimony. Update. Many thanks to everyone for their support in my last post. I thought I'd send a small update. First, for those who asked how the deposit on my new apartment was only the $600 I saved on the gifts, it certainly wasn't. I had to dip into savings, but that $600 helped. My Steeps didn't bother reaching out to me after I left until he was served the divorce papers, and my lawyer made it clear we're exercising the prenup. Then it was loving voicemails and texts I never picked up from him and his family for a few days trying to convince me to come back, which eventually turned to threatening and cruel voicemails and texts when it was clear I wasn't budging. My lawyer suggested I don't block them so we have evidence of harassment if needed. Basically, give them the rope to hang themselves with. But then last night I got call after call from my Speaks. Stupidly, I picked it up thinking there was some kind of emergency or something. I barely got hello out when he said, "The rent is a week late." I told him that's strange because I paid my landlord 6 days ago. He paused and sighed dramatically and replied, "No, the rent for here." I reminded him I don't live there and he shouldn't expect rent. Cue his parents both texting me that they're going to sue me to pay the remainder of the lease entirely. I'm not worried about having an eviction on my record, since the apartment is in his parents' names. When we first announced we were moving to his hometown, they rented an apartment for us right away so we could move right in. They've been renewing the lease each year. We had to pay his parents, and then they write a check to the landlord, who has no idea who Spix and I are, let alone that we lived there. Red flag. I know. I'm glad I had a few weeks to prep my leaving, since they'd probably use the fact that it's their apartment to kick me out immediately. Divorce is probably going to be a bumpy ride with this man-child and his psycho parents. Any advice from anyone who's been through it is welcome. Comments by OP lawyer is confident they have no leg to stand on. I haven't signed any type of lease and utilities are in their name. 2. Because they were afraid of having too many names connected to the apartment, and the landlord finding out. So they are on the hook for everything that doesn't get paid. But, hey, that was their choice and their scheming. Fafo.